Well, good afternoon or good evening if you're in the beautiful USA. If you are overseas, depending on where you are, you're either in bed, so you can't be watching live, or in the Pacific Rim, it's already Super Saturday morning. I am Mr. Simpler, Faster, Better, aka the guy in the blue shirt, as most people know me, and I am honored to have a wonderful conversation with Cheryl, who we met through a buddy of ours, or Herb. So thank you, Herb, for that. And Cheryl has blessed me with wearing her blue as well. Thank you, Cheryl.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Bruce. I really appreciate it. And I do love the blue.
Good. Well, we're good. So we're two lovers of blue, a pair of blue, whatever we want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blue bees, blue bumblebees. I don't know. What would we be? I don't know.
I don't know. We could sing the blues.
Ah, that would take me back. I've not sung for a while, so that used to be a passion of mine, and I used to work really hard at it, but I don't work very hard at it at all anymore. So.
Oh, wow. Well, I only sang in the choir in high school, and now I just sing in the shower, and that's probably best.
All right. Yeah. Well, in the shower, it would be fish gotta swim and birds gotta fly, right? Something like that.
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty good in the car, too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it helps with the road rage if you sing sometimes, right?
Yes, it does.
All right. Hey, Jeffrey Edwards. Awesome show. We only just started, Jeffrey. All right. So, anyway, the serious part about the introduction through great example of the power of LinkedIn, right? So I started to comment on some of Herb's posts, and he was posting about your hikes that you had, and then you started commenting, and I was kind of amused that the back and forth, the bantering, the blue bantering between you guys, and it was awesome. And you revealed that, Herb said about almost killing you on one of the hikes. And right. So I thought, you know what, this lady sounds like she's up for being a really good LinkedIn Live guest. So what a great, it's a great, powerful example of if you engage correctly and you treat people with respect and you actually follow along with what you do, you never know what fabulous connections you're going to make, right?
Exactly. And I'm very grateful to her, but because of our connection, he and I, that's how I met you. And we already hit it off pretty well. So I'm very excited about that. And I will tell you, yes, Herb did try and kill me on a hike. And it made me crazy because I thought, wait a minute, I've got to be in better altitude shape. He lives in Arizona. I live in Colorado. So I already I'm a mile high above sea level, but he was going up that mountain like he had someplace really important to be. And he's asking me questions. So I think that was a sneaky little trick, and he was doing that on purpose. So as I was answering his questions and trying to keep up, I was getting so short of breath, but I didn't want to stop. I thought, if I pass out, I will stop, but I am not going to stop. I would be too embarrassed until finally my legs were on fire. And I said, I have got to stop. If you want to keep running up the mountain, you go right ahead. I'm just going to sit here and wait a little while until I catch my breath. But we had a really good time. And he said, next time we're going to do a 14er. And I said, no.
Good for you. Yeah. Herb's a little misleading because he's got a lot of spirit in that small frame of his, and yeah, he's super fit. So he keeps trying to get me to go on stuff with him, and I already know there's no way I'm going to do that. I need to be doing micro baby steps before I even get to baby stepping with Herb, because Herb is super fit and he's super disciplined, and he spent a lot of time with a lot of his Marine buddies, so that's where he gets the stamina from. And so I made the mistake of sharing a Marine story with him. So
So basically what that means, Bruce, is that you're a lot smarter than I am, because I let him, talk me into that hike. And I told him next time he comes to Denver, I'm going to drag him to a ballet class.
Oh, you should, because I've actually done one of those. So
really?
Yes. Not a lot of people know this, but when I was in my early 30s, I wanted to be in this particular community theater group. And the audition was a 5-steppers, no pun intended, sorry. So you had to do a little ballet, you had to do jazz, you had to be able to tap, and you had to be able to read from a monologue, and you had to sing. So I couldn't do any of those things. So so I set about challenging myself, and I was fortunate to be introduced to the choreographer for the community theater group, who happened to give all of those lessons in her spare time.
Oh.
So I went and told Jill what I wanted to do. That was her name. And she said, well, here, I'll have you do a little bit. And she said, there's no way you're going to make it. And I said, what do you mean, no way? And she said, well, it's probably going to take you 5 years. And I said, okay, sign me up. So she was surprised by that. And actually, 5.5 years later, to almost the exact day, I did the audition, and I was signed on to join the community theater group. So yeah.
Congratulations. I love that story. That is nothing but patience, perseverance, spirit, and determination. So bravo, good for you.
Or sheer stubbornness, you know?
You know what? I do give extra points for stubbornness because I personally have incomparable stubbornness. I like to say it's one of my charms. It's probably one of my most annoying, but yet, you know, in a way positive characteristics, because it's gotten me through a lot of really tough times.
Absolutely. So that's part of that, being flexible and being always open to being fit, right? Because
right.
So the last piece of that, Jill was beside herself because I couldn't even count the right time for ballet or the basic moves. So we actually had the opportunity to go to a university for a weekend workshop. And she said, here, you need to sign up for this basic, how to even count, how to count the steps and how to remember what the positions were called. Because they would ask you, you know, show me what a plie is, show me what a whatever is. And I could never remember the words with the moves. So anyway, I signed up for this workshop, and we had a great time. And unbeknown to me, but the leader of the ballet, basic ballet step and protocol, you know, remembering all the moves, etc., was actually being run by a prima donna ballerina from the London Festival Ballet. And what a lot of people may or may not know is that the only way you can reach prima donna status is you have to have danced the lead in Swan Lake. So there was and she was 64 years old, and she was unbelievable. I mean, she was tiny. She was probably 5'1" or 5'2", and she had this cane with a big brass end to it and a metal end on the other end. And the cane was as tall as she was, and she would beat time on the floor. So that's how she taught you how to count. Like, okay, we're going to do a 3.5. And then you're going to plie. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, half. Boom. So that was it. So I spent almost 8 hours with this lady, and she was absolutely unbelievable. Just one of the nicest human beings I've ever met, but as strict as anything.
That was really not what I was expecting her to do with the cane. What I was expecting was that she was going to be smacking you with it.
Well, that was so for vertical positions and for the amount of degrees that you turned out. She used to turn the cane the other way with the big brass end, and she used to push, because obviously she was conscious of the fact that I was the only adult male in the class. So she didn't want to like pull my legs and limbs around like she was doing with the girls. So she would push my either my toes or my ankles or my knees or my hips, or, you know, sometimes under my butt to make me stand up tall. So yeah. So the cane did have another use. That's
I kind of figured, because back in the day, that was how a lot of the ballet teachers taught. You had to have some kind of a stick. And my ballet master, who I loved to death, didn't like him for the first maybe 20 years or so. But as he got older and I got older, we got to be quite close. I mean, I don't think he thought very highly of me as a dancer, but he loved me as a person, and, kind of we
Right.
had that relationship. But when he was younger, he used to have this huge mahogany stick, and that was before
Right.
I ever took with him. And, he would actually, whack people with it. And
Right.
one time they were talking about whatever happened to that cane or the stick. And even he was saying, I don't know what happened to that mahogany stick. And one of the dancers said, it's hanging up above my fireplace.
Oh, awesome. As a reminder or a reward or both?
A little bit of both, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's back to your theme, being fit and being flexible comes in a lot of different disguises and a lot of different genres. And what was interesting with her is that when the class was over, because, there were a lot of, I think the youngest girl in there was probably 4 or 5 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was the only, I was in my mid 30s and I was the only guy, adult guy in the class. And it's funny because towards the end we had a break and she said, hey, come. And we were allowed to go to this little cafeteria and we sat down and we actually drank tea together because she was from the Czech Republic, which I didn't know. I couldn't tell. So we just talked about Europe and, her upbringing and how she got to become, the lead in Swan Lake and blah, blah, blah. And it was an unbelievable story. And that's when her human side came out of her.
Mm-hmm.
But when she went back in the class, she was like a metronome. I mean, she was like sterile, no character. Everything was about beating in time. She beat every single move and every single thing that she was teaching with that cane. But
anyway. I have to bring it back to the fit and flexible part because you keep referring to that. And I think the biggest part of the fitness and the flexibility is exactly what you were talking about. At the age of 30, as an adult male, you walked into a ballet class and you said, I'm going to do this. And I think a lot of times we put limitations on ourselves, and a lot of people would say, I can't do that. Or maybe your friends would say, you're too old to do that. Are you crazy? What are you thinking of? I started my ballet training when I was 20. So I was in college, and I can't tell you how many people said, you are way too old for that. What are you doing?
Right, absolutely. Hey, Kenny Dunner's on. He's a regular viewer, so thank you. Yes, savor the flavor, Kenneth. That's right. Kenneth's down in the Houston area, just so you know. I'm not sure where Jeffrey is from, but is Jeffrey your connection, or I don't
know.
Oh, okay. Must be awesome. All right. So Jeffrey, let us know if you're still listening in. Let us know where you're from. I know where Kenny is, and he's an avid supporter. And I think I always shock him because every time I do a live, I tell him something that he might not have heard before.
I'm kind of guessing he hadn't heard the story about you taking ballet when you were 30 years old.
Oh, well, there's lots of stories like that. I was brought up in an all-female household, so there were a lot of opportunities for a man to do a lot of female-based things, and it used to shock people. A lot of them.
So you had sisters, but no brothers.
No brothers, 4 sisters, an absent father, my mom and my grandmother. So
wow.
I had the joy of 6 female tutors who all believed they had the right way of showing me how to do everything in their right way. So so that meant I had to learn 6 different right ways of doing anything.
So I grew up I have 4 sisters and 3 girl cousins, and we grew up as one big family. No brothers, not a boy in sight. And we were all interlaced in age and stuff. So we were very, very close growing up. And I see Kenneth is from Sugar Land, Texas.
Yes, I know. I love it there.
I love that name.
Yeah, it's a real city as well. It's in the metro area of Houston, I think, from memory. So I've been there once, and I can't remember where I went, but I know it was a beautiful, very picturesque, like rural mall. It was amazing, and there was a kind of like a farmer's market, but it didn't have fruit and vegetable, but it had a lot of arts and crafts. And I remember walking around in the middle of this place thinking, oh my goodness, there's all this talent in like pretty rural Texas. But anyway, so amazing what you remember as you travel.
Yes, it is. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Correct. So that's another great teaching university when you travel. My goodness, right?
Well, I like the story that you shared with me before we started recording about your experience of doing a LinkedIn Live with your Uber driver.
Ah, yes. Not planned, but it happened.
And there's the flexibility part too. So it's not necessarily just flexibility in body. It is flexibility in your thinking and, you know, just in your spirit and your mind. So that's really the key to flexibility.
Well, you know what? I knew we'd find something. I said to you, we'd find something in common ground. See, I got goosebumpy already, right? And what is really interesting is if you don't know Deborah G was a recent guest, and we were talking. She's all about mindfulness, and we were talking about the normal definition of mind, body, and soul. Well, we actually renamed mind, body, and soul into mindfulness, and talking about, you know, spirituality more than soul. And then for the body, really, you know, thinking about breathing into things. So having a breath and a breath. So we redefined MBS during the show as we chit-chatted, and it was an amazing experience. It's one of those, you know, experiences you don't forget. And we've been communicating since, and that's the other thing. You never, ever know how much common ground you're going to find with somebody else. So, so if you're not connected to Deborah G or Deb G, I can make that introduction. I think you guys would be awesome LinkedIn sisters for sure.
I would love that. I would love an introduction to her. And Kenneth, I'm in Colorado.
Ah, yeah. Thanks, Kenneth. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just jabbering on here, not paying attention. Keep me on track, Kenny. Otherwise, I'm going to go. Oh, the play. You know, I'm going to be Bruce the Seuss, not Dr. Seuss. Oh, the places Bruce will go. Right.
Love it.
I love playing with words. It's one of my annoying but innate skills that I will take words and I will play nuances around similar words, and you know, so but hey, it's, you know, that's how I came up with simpler, faster, better as my process improvement method. It's like, how do you dumb it down to very simple and powerful words that most people understand, you know?
So do you write?
I do.
And
but I don't do anything with it other than, hang on a minute.
I'm not going anywhere.
Well, you can, because I got control of the buttons. So here's my latest little creation. I created the Fix It journal, Fast Steps to Saving Steps, Time and Money. And it is very male centric because most of the journals on the market don't provide a format. So this is the improvement opportunity that the person can do. This is the bullet points or the little wins, because guys like to think about things in wins. And then down here are reflections. And then right at the bottom is a simple pleasure that's the reward for your achievement that week. And so I already had the simple pleasures, and they came about because in 2009, my business collapsed during the economic downturn at that time. And so in a period of less than 4 weeks, I lost all my customers and all my revenue in that period of time. And so I went broke and I became broken. And so I had to figure out how to keep rewarding myself without having any money. So I started to accumulate through, actually a friend suggested to me, and they said, just write down all the non-monetary things that you love to do or give you a good feeling, and go do one of them at least once a week. So I already had the simple pleasures already brought together. I've been doing process improvement for 40 years plus, so I already had a lot of fast tips on what to do. So I just pulled it together after a live with 𝐼𝐸_𝐸, because 𝐼𝐸_𝐸 is a big journaler, and she had her own journal, and that was the inspiration. I had all the stuff, and we whack-a-moed it together, and 4 weeks later, it's out on Kindle Direct Publishing.
4 weeks.
4 weeks, yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, I'm a process guy, so I just
and it's simpler, faster, better.
Yeah, that's right. So I said, Hallie, well, how do I do this? And she introduced me to a lady called Caitlin Lish. And so between Hallie, who'd already done it, Caitlin Lish, who understood the Kindle Direct Publishing process, and I had the material. So between the three of us, we pulled it together, and it happened in 4 weeks.
Jeez. Well, congratulations.
Yeah. So anyway, so it is out on Kindle Direct Publishing. It's an awesome gift for the hard to buy for, because it's pretty unusual. And then the other cool thing is in the back, there's lots of pages for notes for next year, and you can start anywhere in the journal. You don't have to start at number 1. You can just pick your number between 1 and 26 and start there.
And the other cool thing about it, it's blue.
Of course. Well, it's actually blue. It's the same color blue, and the red stripes are for I'm passionate about IndyCar racing. So
wow.
Here's me pretending to be an IndyCar racer, but on a scooter. It's very racing orientated, so it's got a lot of my passion in there.
It's nice. Very, very nice.
All right. Well, thanks. All right. Bruce's story is filled with thank you, delectable nuggets. I'm not going to read it. Well, thanks.
Look at all those wonderful words.
Oh, Kenny should be the writer. I'm not sure. Do you write in your spare time, Kenneth? Because Kenneth is an analytical scientist. He's been working in a pretty upscale laboratory for a long, long time. I think 32 years, I believe, if I'm in the right ballpark. He'll have to tell us. He'll have to put me straight, because I can't remember facts like that about everybody, just some people. So.
Yep. Well, especially when you meet so many people.
I do meet a lot of people. So, hey, and talking of meeting a lot of people, Mary Fain Brandt and I are actually going to be setting up here in Arizona LinkedIn locals in person. So we're actually taking we're taking a leap of faith, and on January 25th we kick off our first in-person LinkedIn local again here in the Phoenix area. So
I will keep my eyes open for that and watch. So
yeah. Well, it's we just hope that the crazy new variant doesn't destroy our plans, but we found a place. It's called the Sleepy Well. They have a patio, so we're having a maximum of 40 people in a safe space that's outside, and they have patio heaters, and we're going to be bringing varied food menu, to the patio, so that people don't have to be in a line or close to each other, but we're still going to have a good time. So
yeah, it's so nice to be able to see people's faces again. I did an event 2 weekends ago, or 1 weekend ago. It was the first weekend in December, and it was up in the mountains in this little small town, Georgetown. They always have they have a yearly Christmas festival, which of course they didn't have one last year, but they also have a building that they rent out to Colorado authors. So we could, and it's always so much fun, because you meet a lot of people, but you also get to meet and connect with fellow authors that, you maybe see online, but you really don't. I'm looking at what Kenneth said. Yeah. I actually did speed read that, Kenneth, and I also saw the 33.5 years at the Anderson Cancer Center.
Well, thank you for your service, Kenneth. Unfortunately, there's way too many people that need your services, and that's a sign of our times, unfortunately. So, but well, so talk to us about speed reading.
The speed, well, I just, I just kind of, I don't think I'm really a speed reader, but I can read pretty fast. I think that came from all my years in the medical field. I was a respiratory therapist for 17 years, and then as a physical therapist for over 20 years. So, a lot of times you're going through charts pretty quickly when you just got to let me get the bullet points because I don't have a lot of time. I need to get to the patients. So I think that's when that's when I got pretty good at it. And then when I was in physical therapy school and they're giving you, the tons of information and the volume of books and everything that you had to read, you got faster, you got lost.
Right. Okay. Sounds like the Kenny and Cheryl on the road medical show, I think. With both of the backgrounds. I mean, I think that would be kind of cool.
Read it out loud to us. Geez. Oh, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, Kenny's good at putting you on the spot. Thanks, Kenny.
I was going to say, that's okay. I'm a ninja. I can kind of like deflect and move away.
Look at that. Perfect segue. So if you look over Cheryl's right shoulder, right, it will be your right shoulder. Yes?
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this is your second book. It's Ninja. So tell us a little bit about the genesis for book number 2 and when it's coming out and a little bit more of the scoop.
Okay, well, The Forever Fit and Flexible, that was my first book. And that was published 5.5 years ago. And there was a natural segue. It was a lot of my personal story of recovering from a chronic pain syndrome when I was in my mid-30s after the medical profession, who I was part of had, kind of written me off. You're always going to be like this. You're never going to heal. You'll always be a chronic pain patient. Start applying for disability, all that kind of stuff. And it was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is not going to be my life. I was only 36 years old. So I had this, I hit rock bottom, and then I had this incredible epiphany of, you got to figure this out on your own. Right. So I ended up going from being a chronic pain patient to a few years later, a physical therapist in private practice. And I was using alternative methods to teach people how to heal themselves rather than don't come to me to get fixed. You can go to a traditional physical therapist. And then, if you want a little bit more, then you can come to me. So anyhow, that's how that first book came about. Well, the second book is about my journey into the male-dominated, testosterone-infested world of men and martial arts at the tender young age of 47. So, boy, there's a backstory there that's pretty amazing. Yeah, because I'm a fussy girl.
Than my ballet one.
It's kind of like, yeah, the opposite of what you went through. It's like starting ballet. Right. Here I was, a middle-aged ballet dancer going into martial arts for the first time in my life. And that was just so crazy. And it was one of those things that, the universe, God planned. It was one of those things that I never went looking for the martial art, but the art came looking for me. And it was not going to say no. So basically, I was 44 when I met my teacher, my sensei, but he was my acupuncturist before he became my teacher. And for 3 long years, he badgered me into taking classes from him because he had his dojo right next to his clinic. And the very first time he put needles in my legs, again, dancer, he got a very far away look on his face. And he said, with your legs and my coaching, I could teach you how to kill with these things.
Right. Absolutely.
And I thought, oh my God, who thinks like that, let alone says it out loud? Well, it took him 3 years. After 3 years, he finally wore me out and wore me down. And I said, okay, I will take a few classes just to prove to you how much I'm going to hate it, and then I'll quit. And 10 years later, I became his first female black belt.
Wow. Way to go, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Way to go.
But the
So
funniest thing is they were always waiting. Like the guys, it's a very male dominated school, which is fine. I learned to like it after a while. But they had no idea how to deal with someone like me because I would have to excuse myself to go refreshen my lipstick. So, I had to step off the mat because I had to fix my makeup. And they're like, who does that? The other women who would show up were a little bit more burly than I was. So it took a while for us to understand how to communicate with each other, but it was an
right.
incredible lesson in learning how to communicate, learning about relationships, because not only here I was, I'd been married for, at that point, probably 25 years. And no, not quite that long, but just trying to communicate with men as friends again, which I hadn't had since college. And about the relationship too, of, how it was just very complicated and how to communicate and how to have a relationship with them. And it was amazing. I mean, once we figured out how to communicate with each other, we had great relationships, wonderful friendships, and believe it or not, those men taught me how to be a lady. I mean, it's just amazing how they helped me tap into my femininity and my feminine nature by using the skills of the ninja. So the book is full of stories all the way from my very first day, my first class, where I'm just the only woman in, well, I was not only the only woman in class, I was the only woman within a 10-mile radius.
Wow.
And surrounded by all these guys. A lot of them were black belts. And I was looking for the back door going, I got to get out of here. I am never coming back. And there was something about that art that just pulled me in. It was a very, very seductive art form. And I still, as a matter of fact, I was there this afternoon. I took class this afternoon.
Awesome. So I got another goosebumpy thing because I didn't tell you the why behind I spent 5 years wanting to get in that community theater group. And the why was that I went to see them do a show. And the leading lady, her name was Jackie. And the leading man's name was Jeff. And they were work buddies. But on stage, they became this dancing love fest.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, just my bottom jaw was like on the floor. I was just in awe at how, and they were both in the banking profession. So very, very conservative. And I used to see them at the bank, and Jeff was the assistant manager and Jackie was in charge of it. And you would never, ever have known that they were a romantic dancing couple that people paid to go watch. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. I went to see them. And I just fell in love with the whole nuance of how cool is that. And so fast forward to your moments on the first classes, the first time you have to pick a girl up, and you got to pick her up in pretty intimate places. Sometimes it's like, oh my goodness. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The men actually end up having to teach the ladies certain things, and the ladies definitely teach you. But it's all leverage. I mean, at the end of the day, and it was like, and I would talk myself out of it and be like, I'm not strong enough to do that. And Jeff used to say, come on, it's nothing to do with strength. And he would say, all you do is you just lean into it a little bit and use her body weight as a leverage. And it's unbelievable what the lady and man will teach you about how to use leverage. So, yeah.
It was amazing, too, because, of course, they taught me how to throw. And the first time, I was probably just a yellow belt, so I was still fairly new. And one of the black belts was going to teach me a throw and how to throw. And I'm like, okay, you're 6'1", you're pretty muscular, I'm this size, I'm a white belt or a yellow belt, and you're going to teach me how to throw. Good luck with that.
Yeah, right.
But he did a great job of teaching me, like you said, using your leverage, using your body structure, not trying to muscle. I mean, I can't out muscle a cat, but using my structure to get underneath him, to be able to lift him. And I had him on my back, and I was able to carry him on my back. And I didn't quite get to the throw yet, but I thought that was pretty good for a start.
Yep. So it's about your mind, right? So it comes back to, physically, it's it's one thing, but it's all about that mindfulness and using the power of your mind. And if you really, if you have a big enough why, and you're motivated enough, and you're willing to do the work, there's probably nothing that, I mean, there are some things you can't do, but there aren't a lot that you can't do if you really want to do it.
Well, and the other thing is, Kenneth, how far did you throw him? I didn't throw him, but if you want, I can tell you what I did the very first class I ever took. Yeah, it turned out okay for both parties involved, especially me. And this is, I always tell people when I work with, especially women, I'll tell them that, you are stronger than you think you are.
Absolutely.
And we all have inherent skills that we don't even realize that we have. And we all have even like superpowers, maybe secret superpowers that we don't even know we have. So it was my very first class. And, Mark, my teacher, was showing the technique of what he wanted us to work on. Of course, I was covering my eyes, trying not to look. The sound effects were just too much for me. And then when I opened my eyes, I saw this black belt walking directly toward me. And I thought, okay, this can't be good. So he stopped in front of me and he bowed and he said something in Japanese. And I had no idea what he said. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. So I just did what came naturally. I lifted up an imaginary skirt and I curtsied and I said, enchanté, because that was natural to me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I forgot the enchanté.
Enchanté, yeah.
Right.
But the funny thing is, then I totally, confused him. So I rattled him so much that I realized, he wasn't expecting that. When you do something that's unexpected, you got a little bit of a heads up or a little bit of a advantage, let's just say. So then he explains to me that he wanted me to kick him. So I'm twirling my ponytail and I said, but I don't want to kick you. I've never kicked anybody in my life and I'm not going to start now. And he just smiled and he says, no, this is the technique that we're doing. So I want you to kick me. He points to his belly below his belt and he says, I want you to kick me here. And I began twirling my ponytail and I said, but I don't want to kick you and I don't want to hurt you. And you could see that smile got much bigger. And you see the air bubble above his head going, oh, she's so precious. She thinks she can hurt me. And I'm just like, I'm not going to kick you. So finally he convinced me. He said, no, really, just go ahead and kick me right here. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to miss and hit, parts. Yeah. He goes, well, I don't want. Yeah. He says, I don't want that either. Just make sure you aim right here. And I said, okay, if you insist. And like I said, I didn't know how to kick, but I knew how to do a grand jeté. So I just picked up my right leg and I drove my pointed toes deep into his abdomen with all the force and intention of a grand jeté flying across a ballet stage. Well, apparently I could hurt him because he fell back a couple of feet, landing, hugging his belly. And when he finally caught his breath, he said, wow, that was pretty good. He said, actually, that was really good. How did you learn to kick like that? Or where did you learn to kick like that? So my teacher was watching the whole thing and he came over and said, how many years of ballet? And at that point it was 27. So I said, 27. And he said to the guy, he says, don't let the package fool you. She's a lot stronger than she looks. And I thought, yeah, I do know how to do some of these things. I was just talking myself out of it. So that was my first experience in not throwing somebody, but I did move him a couple of feet.
Well, talking about moving people, what have you got going on that's going to move people swiftly through and into 2022, Cheryl?
Well, I do work with people online. I've got my Forever Fit and Flexible program that I do. I'm also now doing in-person workshops cool. Movement. So I basically specialize in the art of healing through movement using, Pilates, Feldenkrais, and a lot of other different modalities, alternative. So just empowering people how to move better, feel better, and even using those same skills as self-defense.
Right.
Because it gives you that confidence. And when you're confident, people don't want to mess with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. Again, great other common ground. I have some, I don't really do affirmations, but I have some You know, I want to like feel good, sound good, look good, be good, smell good, taste good. No, seriously, because now the last one might seem strange, but sometimes you don't actually know that, you know. Anyway, so so those are, I repeat those to myself when I'm unsure, for sure. And but I try and repeat those to myself at least every day. And it's amazing, those should do's, could do's, you know, it gets rid of the well, I can't do that. Do the should, can, and do, and will. Then it's amazing the difference it makes. And it's a tiny little shift in the brain. That's all it takes.
It's a tiny shift, but it has huge impact, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Micro change here, by the time it goes out into the ripples of the planet and the seas, it becomes like a tsunami. So yeah, absolutely. All right. So what's the best way for people to reach out or get a hold of you, Cheryl? Which do you prefer?
My website is CherylILove.com. If you sign up for my newsletter, I do offer, you can have access to 3 meditation through movement audio or that I have recorded. They're brief, so that's not overwhelming, and it just gives you a little bit more of insight of increasing your physical, mental, emotional well-being through movement. You can also always, LinkedIn is a wonderful way to connect with me. I love meeting people on LinkedIn. And I do have a Facebook page.
That are rude in the comments, right?
But exactly.
Even people that are rude or sarcastic in the comments. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. It was an honor to have you, and thank you for being passionate about our favorite color, blue, as well. My shameless plug, I'm going to do a little outtake, and yeah, if you've got a hard to buy for person, you can hop onto Amazon and go take a look at my journal. It is the Fix It journal, and I think I'm the only one that has a Fix It journal in that title on Amazon, so it should be easy to find. All right, just my other shameless plug is what I do.
So, what if your processes do not work well? Did you know you can save or eliminate massive amounts of wasted steps, time, money, or other resources? Bruce can show or teach you how. Take the next step. Visit his website at processcleanup.com and book a casual yet confidential call with Bruce. It just might change your world forever.
There we go. See?
Thank you. Very nice.
Yes, Trina Poole talks way better than I do, and more succinctly than I do. So,
well, I think you talk beautifully, and thank you so much for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it, and I really loved hearing your stories, especially the one about ballet.
Well, you know, you never know, right? I have lots of stories. Maybe I should do a storybook. I don't know.
Oh, you could.
I could. Yes, I can, if I wish. Yeah, actually, I'm going on a cruise over the Christmas period, so maybe I have a journal to take with me, so maybe I'll start writing them down. You never know. Might be my 2022 project. All right. Hang on a little bit. Thanks, everyone.